Do you want a Toyota or do you want a BMW? That's the question.
Yeah, they're just two different worlds.
So we're going to talk about the different options. My idea was to have the LC500 be the Supra. It would have barely been any money in research and development. They just throw a Toyota badge on it, give it some beefed up internals just in case people want to tune it. I would have made the interior a little bit different. Maybe I would have made it maybe a little bit of a throwback to the Mark IV Supra, because that would have gave people a little bit of nostalgia for it, right? I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 wrenches in my top drawer. Today we got to talk about the Toyota Supra. What do you think it should have been? On my last video about the BMW Supra, a lot of people were upset in the comments, and we're going to talk about it. I had an idea of what I thought they should have done differently. You know, people have their own opinions. I'm going to give you 3 options about the Toyota Supra, and we are going to let Dane give us his opinion. He's kind of a BMW guy, but he likes Toyota a little bit too. So we're going to see what Dane thinks. And then I want you guys to tell me in the comments what you think as well. Dane, we want your opinion on this, but first let's look at the comments. All right, so one person says, I never would have thought the most reliable and the most unreliable would partner up. Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah.
All right, this guy said, this is not the first time manufacturers collaborate with each other. Audi and Porsche, Alfa Romeo and Ferrari, they're all doing it. Many great cars exist because of collaborations, blah, 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 blah. You guys are privileged and spoiled by the fact that you can still buy a Supra.
Ooh.
We're privileged and spoiled, Dane.
Yeah, throwing some heat.
Okay. This guy said, wait a minute. With the EPA and the age of EVs, you mean to tell me that Toyota didn't spend hundreds of millions of dollars in research and development on a low volume car that in the end wouldn't make them any money? This is why that guy is not in charge of a multi-billion-dollar corporation.
I don't fully understand this one. What guys you talking about?
He's talking about me.
Oh.
So anyway, I did think of that, Mr. Smart Guy.
Yeah.
And what my suggestion was that instead of using BMW, they could have used the Lexus LC500 and just put a Toyota badge on it. And then I said also to beef up the internals a little bit, which would have barely cost them any money. So I don't know. I don't know if you watched the whole video, but
probably not. We should also address the fact that auto manufacturers, when it comes to sports cars, don't make sports cars just to make money. Sometimes they make them knowing they're going to take a loss just because they think it's going to be cool or people might like it, and that inspires them to buy other things in their brand. Yeah. So think of your high volume sports cars that are still available, like Miata, Corvette. Even though those things sell volume for those companies, they're not the money makers. They're making money on everything else, not those cars.
Yeah, so I think you're looking at it as like a loss leader,
right?
What they would say in business, to where like it gets you in the door and then you buy other stuff.
Yep.
All right. Yeah, I see what you're saying, but yeah, I mean, my suggestion would have barely cost them any money.
Yeah, that's true.
Know. All right, so let's see, what else did he say? This person said Toyota should have given us the FT1 concept as the new Toyota. People would have paid whatever it took. Collaboration should have been with Porsche. Then they would have had something truly special, but they gave us a small, stubby, yet capable M2. So he thinks they should have went with Porsche.
Yeah, I think I made a mention of that too. Like, not so much that they should have went with Porsche, but I mean, you can't really knock that company. They've done everything so well, and they have so much prestige. But man, these Toyota fanboys, yeah, I don't think they're going to take anything that's not a Toyota in that car.
I don't know about Porsche. That's kind of the problem that we're talking about now, going with a German manufacturer. But he did talk about this FT1 concept, and I'm going to show you guys what that looks like in a moment. Sky said, I didn't accept the last Supra either. What a mistake that was. Time will show how great the car really is. Toyota will not endorse garbage. And he said, Honda is far superior to GM. I think he's throwing a shot at you, Dane.
Yeah, whatever. You can be wrong.
So we're going to talk about the different options. My idea was to have the LC500 be the Supra. It would have barely been any money in research and development. They just throw a Toyota badge on it, give it some beefed up internals, just in case people want to tune it. I would have made the interior a little bit different. Maybe I would have made it maybe a little bit of a throwback to the Mark IV Supra
Mhm,
because that would have gave people a little bit of nostalgia for it, right?
mhm,
Because and then I would have had the LC500 have more of a huge digital display, like as as the interior, kind of like they do in that Mercedes electric car. I used to have a 2011 Mustang, and the gauges and everything in the interior, it looked really retro. And I was like, wow, this looks pretty cool. And then one day I was working at Pep Boys, and then I went out into the parking lot, and it was like a super old Mustang. It was like from the 60s. And I looked inside of it, and everything looked exactly like my 2011 Mustang. So I was
mhm.
like, wow, they must have they went back into the crates and got some old school stuff out of it. I think people would have really liked the interior looks similar, not exactly, but similar to the Mark IV Supra, beefed up internals. So that is my option, right?
Yep.
The second option is to make it look like the FT1 concept. So let's look at that. So this is the F1 concept. This is from Jay Leno's garage.
Yep.
So I'm not going to play the sound because I don't want to get copyrighted. But yeah, that is the concept. You
It
see
looks
that,
really
Dane?
similar. Yeah, it looks very similar.
It does, but it's bigger.
Yeah.
You see how much bigger it is? I think it looks way better being bigger like this.
Yeah, the
Because you
proportions
notice,
are a little better.
yeah, the if you notice it, even the older Supra, the Mark IV, is much bigger
Mhm.
than the current one.
Yep.
So, but yeah, I think it looks a lot better with these proportions.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
Look at that. That is nice, man.
Mhm.
The guy in the comments was telling me that Jay Leno begged him to make it just like this, and they didn't listen apparently.
They
But
they should have listened.
let's talk about why they didn't listen.
Mhm.
So this is I found this on Wikipedia. They were talking about this F1, the FT1 concept. It was
Mhm.
designed in California, and FT stands for Future Toyota. FT1's overall design was eventually incorporated into the fifth generation Toyota Supra, which launched in 2019. However, much of the design had to have updated proportions and dimensions during co development alongside BMW
Mhm.
due to being adapted around the significantly smaller BMW Z4, the platform's shared hardpoints. So they had to adapt this vehicle around the BMW, and I
Mhm.
think that's part of the problem, in my opinion. But
Yeah, that's where people start having problems, right?
yeah, they had to adapt it to BMW's powertrain. They said
Mhm.
they wanted to try to get the vehicle to be around $60,000,
Mhm.
and I think that might have been a mistake as well. Because for them wanting it to be that inexpensive, then I think maybe they had to go with a different powertrain. I don't know. Maybe that was part of the equation. I think the Supra is in competition with the GTR.
Or
So
it
the
should be.
GTRs cost like $100,000.
Mhm.
And even when it first came out, it was around 65, but that was like almost 20 years ago. So even back then money, it was like $80,000 approximately.
Right.
So I think they tried to make it too inexpensive, and then everything went downhill from there. What do you think?
It's a strong possibility. This car could have been. I'm going to back up a minute. So this car could have been like all these guys' dreams, and they were never going to buy it because they couldn't afford it. But if Toyota stayed true to the purist, it could have had all this praise. But what Toyota did was like, let's try and make a car for everybody that more people can afford. And because they did that and cut corners and got away from what that car was and what they meant to these people, that's when things started going sideways. And those people still aren't going to buy that car. So you probably would have been better off making a $150,000 car that checked all the boxes.
Yeah, I think so. And one other thing I think that maybe they didn't think about or they
Mhm.
didn't worry about was they're saying that the Supra is going to be going away soon. A lot of rumors are saying that. And they're
Yeah.
saying that is because BMW has decided to stop making that car. So
Mhm.
that's one of the things that you risk when you get into a relationship like this. Because
Mhm.
now, what if Toyota wanted to keep selling the Supra, and now BMW says, "Well, we're not going to make it anymore." Like Toyota can't make them keep making that car; it's their car. So now they
Mhm.
have to stop making it. So
Yeah.
they're losing some of their control over what they make.
Right. Yeah. There's probably an agreement on the back end that said that they would produce it for X amount of time. And once that time was up, they could renegotiate. And I'm
Oh,
guessing sales weren't stellar for that car. So since sales weren't great, does it probably make sense to keep making it? At least not with that platform.
yeah, yeah, that's a good point.
Hmm.
So let's look at what my dream would have been to have the LC500. I just want
Hmm.
you guys to see how beautiful this car is. I didn't drive this, but I was driven around in this when I used to work at Toyota.
Hmm.
The drivers were driving it, and I was like with them.
Hmm.
They asked me, did I want to drive it, and I said no. But
Oh, really?
yeah, because they had one of the drivers that got in an accident
Hmm.
with their driving a test car. It wasn't a big accident or anything, but and then I saw like they were asking him questions about this accident, all day. They were like, "Well, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that?"
Hmm.
And it was like, oh my god, it was like giving them the. It just seemed a little stressful.
Yep.
So I didn't want to drive it because in case there was an accident or got a dent or something, I didn't want them constantly questioning me about, oh,
Hmm.
why didn't you do this? What happened? What did you eat for breakfast that day?
Right.
I didn't feel like driving it, but
Hmm.
yeah, I've been up close and personal with it, and even in person, it is striking. It's
Hmm.
amazing looking car. It looks. I showed a picture of this to my friend's wife, and she said it looks like this car looks like it's from the future.
Yeah, it's a good looking car.
This is nice, man.
Hmm.
Only thing I never liked the interior that much.
I
It's,
don't hate it.
it's I don't hate it, but I don't know. It's especially this monochrome one or
Hmm.
this one looks a little better, I think.
Yeah, that's pretty sweet.
But when it's all one color, it looks weird.
Hmm.
But anyway, like I said, I would have had this be maybe this whole thing would have been, or at least it just would have been more screens. I don't know.
I like the simple. If
You like
it
it?
no more, yeah. If there's any more, I'd hate it. I think it's
Oh,
just
all right.
fine the way it is.
All right. Yeah. I think the two tone looks okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, so those are the options, people. I want you to let me know in the comments which option would you have taken? Would you leave the Supra alone? Would you leave it as a BMW clone, or would you have it be the LC500 with the V8 engine? I looked up that engine is very good. The heads I think are made by Yamaha, but the
Mhm.
rest of it is Toyota, I believe. And there's a 5 liter, and I think there's a 5.4 liter that has even more horsepower. But yeah, that's what I would have done. So Dane, which option would you choose?
I mean, I like the LC option the best if I have to choose between those. But if it was me making all the decisions and I'm wearing the Toyota CEO hat, I don't think I would have done the BMW partnership either.
Yeah,
Now, I'm not mad at it, but I also don't hate BMW like a lot of these people do.
yeah,
What I would have done, and I think where these companies kind of lose touch with their customer base, is they don't realize that the Supra name is a hero car for so many people. And the things that made that car great, if you're going to bring it back, needs to have those exact same attributes and better. And they didn't hit those marks, right? So these same things upset me too when, for example, Ford makes the new Lightning. Well, the
yeah,
Lightning was a sport truck that made good power. It kind of a one of a kind deal. And now they quit making it, and then they bring the Lightning back, and it's all electric. Well, that
Yeah.
isn't the thing that made the Lightning cool. The thing that made the Lightning cool was a V8 sport truck that kind of came lower from the factory, and now it's something completely different. You just used a name that was good, and now it's ruined, right?
Yeah.
Or like the Charger comes back. Well, the Charger was a two-wheel drive muscle car, and now it's a four-door. It's got a V6 standard. The V8 options come afterwards, and there's some cool versions of it now with the Hellcat and whatnot, but it's not what it was. If Chevrolet brought back the Nova and it was a four-door and it only had a four-cylinder option, I'd be pissed too. Like, no, the Nova should be a V8 manual transmission, rear-wheel drive, or maybe an auto set up for drag racing. Stay true to the purist. So what Toyota should have did, it's expensive to make their own engine, but it needs to have a Toyota engine, or at least a Japanese inline six with a turbo that can handle mods. Guys wanted to mod the heck out of those things.
Yeah.
And you just can't waver from that. That's what the people know that car for and know it to be. It's the Japanese muscle car. And so what they have now isn't that. It's a hybrid that doesn't really make anybody happy.
Doesn't fit in. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know somebody in the comments had mentioned nobody else had a straight six that would have been good enough to go in the Supra.
Mhm.
And that's why the BMW engine
Yeah.
was a great choice. But my thing was the difference between it being a straight six and a V8.
Yeah.
Those two things are different, right? But the
Mhm.
difference between it being a Toyota and a BMW is way worse.
Yeah, I think people would be more upset about the BMW thing, even if it. So those guys can get mad and they can talk all the trash they want about BMW and whatever issues they may have. But if you just ask them, like, describe what the ideal super engine should be, and if they say inline six can handle a lot of extra power, it's going to be a turbo, and they start listing off all the attributes they want, well, the BMW engine has it, and it does it really well. But that BMW badge just boils their blood, man.
I learned a little bit about this engine. Believe the timing chain is in the rear, so you have to disconnect the engine from the transmission in order to service the timing chain.
I'm
And
not aware
most
of that specifically.
that's what I heard. Oh, somebody tell me in the comments if I'm wrong, but that's what I heard about this engine. And the fuel injectors, you have to remove the fuel injectors in order to remove the valve cover. Like, it's a lot harder to work on than most Toyota engines. And you know what? A lot of people are saying that BMWs, after around 8 to 10 years, they start leaking all over the place. A lot of their plastics start breaking, and that car is reliable now, right? It's got very performance oriented, but after a while, this car is going to be a money pit, just like most BMWs. And you know what? The engine might even be better than the straight six that Toyota made. The
Mhm.
car itself may be a better car, a better sports car than what Toyota would have designed. But you know what? I go to a Toyota dealership, driving my
Mhm.
Toyota Camry there. If I'm going to trade it in, I'm going to get a Toyota, even if it's not quite as good as a BMW,
Mhm.
because I want a Toyota. That's it.
Yep.
Even if the BMW is better. And I think most people agree with me. Tell me in the comments if you agree with that. Do you want a
Yep.
Toyota or do you want a BMW?
Yep.
That's the question.
Yeah, they're just two different worlds. You're trying to mix oil and water, and that's where the holdup is. Even if the combination's great,
Yeah.
right? It's like asking a kid if he wants to try new food. He's like, "No, I hate it." Like, you haven't tried it yet. What do you mean? But yeah, they're just too
Look,
different.
you know what
I
you want.
get it. What's that?
The kids know what they want.
Yeah, right. I mean, I got empathy for these guys. I mean, I totally get it. I just think you're getting a little too upset over nothing.
Well, I mean, I'm not upset. I'm not going to buy neither one because I'm more of, if I want to buy something, I'm going to buy a GTR. Like, I've always preferred the GTR over the Supra anyway.
There's other cars on the list that are above this, no matter what. Anyways, for
Yeah, I
me,
mean,
for you, yeah.
there's somebody in the comments was like, "You just don't want it because you can't afford it." like,
If I sold at least half of my vehicles, I could probably buy one of these.
like if I really wanted to, I could get one. But I mean, y'all got to understand that buying a $70,000 sports car is probably not the best financial decision.
No.
But
I'll get one of these in about 10 years when it's about 25 grand.
yeah, yeah. It's funny because, when you're young, you think, definitely going to buy that sports car or this sports car. And then you get to that age and you actually could buy it, but you're like, that's a lot of doggone money, man.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly. Get a dog and have a family, and next thing you know, like that thing just plummets on priority. And that's why these things don't sell a bunch of, you know?
Let us know in the comments, which option would you take? The LC500 with the V8 engine? Would you get the concept FT1 with a Toyota V8 engine? Or would you stick with the BMW Supra that they have now?
Mhm.
That is the question. Let us know in the comments. Thank you for tuning in and have a good one.
Yep. See you guys.